Duck and the Diesel Engine is the 13th book of the Railway series, and was first published in 1958. It was written, as usual, by the series creator Wilbert Awdry, and illustrated by John T. Kenny. Over 25 years later, all 4 of its short stories were adapted into short episodes of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. How faithful were these adaptations? Let's see if we can spot the differences. The first story, Domeless Engines, wasn't adapted until Series 3 of the television series in 1991, 5 years after the other 3 stories were brought to model life. The title the episode was given is the first main difference, as it was changed to Gordon and the Famous Visitor. In the book, the story starts with news that a special engine called City of Truro has come to visit the island of Sodor, bringing with it the Railway Society, who take photographs of the Fat Controller's engines. In the episode, instead of Sodor's engines being marvelled by passengers, City of Truro is the one on display, complete with bunting. After the passengers have dispersed, Duck's driver takes him to talk to the celebrity.
"Oh, what?" asked Percy.
In the book, Duck doubts the famous engine would want to speak to him, but in the episode, Thomas is the sceptical one.
"He's probably too famous to even notice us."
At this point, Gordon passes by, claiming to be disinterested in the whole spectacle. In the book, he does not become part of the story until City of Truro leaves.
"Who cares? A lot of fuss about nothing, if you ask me."
The VIP is not referred to by name in the episode, nor does he have a face, yet he can apparently still talk. His face is never revealed in the book, but he was given one in a couple of his Thomas magazine appearances. In the book, Duck talks to City of Truro alone, while he is being topped up with coal. In the episode, he talks to 5 of the engines at their shed at night. The next morning, City of Truro leaves, and Gordon voices his disdain for the visitor to Duck, mostly due to his lack of a dome. In the episode, Thomas is there, and steals Duck's dialogue.
"He went 100 miles an hour before you were thought of."
"So he says,"
snorted Gordon.
"but I didn't like his looks. He's got no dome. Never trust domeless engines. They're not respectable."
Duck seems to find this amusing, whereas in Kenny's illustration, he is clearly cross with Gordon. While Duck is chatting to Edward, Gordon rushes past, having apparently decided to try and top City of Truro's record of going 100 miles an hour. After the blue rocket passes them, Edward winks at Duck, which they naturally did not attempt to do with the model in this episode. Gordon goes so fast that he loosens his dome, and while crossing the viaduct, the wind blows it off. In the episode, when he arrives at the station domeless, the trucks laugh at him. In the book, Gordon is laughed at by people.
"Never trust domeless engines,"
said a voice from somewhere behind him.
"They aren't respectable."
The next 3 stories were all adapted during the second series of Thomas and Friends in 1986. Duck wants everything to run fast and smoothly, much to the satisfaction of passengers, but much to the dislike of the other engines, who grow tired of Duck boasting about being Great Western. In Kenny's illustration, Edward looks to be just as annoyed with Duck as Gordon and James, whereas in the episode, the big engine team is complete, as Henry replaces Edward. The first Diesel to visit Sodor arrives one day. In the episode, Sir Topham Hatt is waiting for him at the sheds. In the book, the Fat Controller has been given a lift to the sheds by Diesel. Percy, James, Henry and Gordon are very impressed with the visitor for mentioning them by name, except Percy really shouldn't have been, since he wasn't mentioned, or seen in the book either.
"Good morning,"
heard Diesel in an oily voice.
"Pleased to meet you, Duck. Is that James? And Henry? And Gordon, too. I am delighted to meet such famous engines."
Duck is suspicious of this patronising new engine, and after Diesel tells him how revolutionary he is, Duck leaves him to collect some trucks.
"We Diesels don't need to learn. We know everything. We come to a yard and improve it."
He watches as Diesel makes a fool of himself due to the trucks being very old and their brakes being jammed. In the episode, the trucks have a more typical truck shape, whereas in Kenny's illustration, they look more like vans. The coupling breaks, causing Diesel to rush forward. This moment was not included into the TV episode, though Diesel is shown backing down, despite not being shown to have become uncoupled. The story ends with the truck singing a parody of Pop Goes the Weasel to Diesel.
Trucks are waiting in the yard, tackling them with easel. Show the world what I can do, gaily boasts the Diesel. In and out he creeps about like a big black weasel. When he pulls the wrong trucks out, pop goes the Diesel.
Diesel is furious with Duck for making the trucks laugh at him. He decides to get revenge on the Great Western engine by telling the trucks rude jokes about Gordon and saying Duck told them to him.
We engines have our differences, but we never talk about them to trucks. That would be disgraceful?
Said Gordon.
Disgusting?
Put in James.
Despicable?
Finished Henry.
The narration in the book states that Diesel told trucks insults about Henry and James too at different sidings. Yet in the episode we are only shown one siding where James and Henry are also insulted by trucks, despite Diesel only telling them the Gordon one.
Duck called me a galloping sausage.
Spluttered Gordon.
Rusty red scrapper.
Hissed James.
I'm old square wheels.
Fumed Henry.
When the Fat Controller hears about this, he tells Duck to go to Edward Station. The only main remaining difference is more of an illustration error, as Diesel goes from being on the left-hand side of the shed to the right-hand side of the shed. Throughout this scene in the episode, he correctly remains on the left side.
I can't understand it, sir. To think the Duck of all engines, I'm dreadfully grieved, sir, but no, nothing. I see,
said the Fat Controller. Diesel squirmed and hoped he didn't.
In the last of this book's stories, Duck spends a few days, maybe even weeks, helping Edward with his trains, and being ignored by Gordon, Henry and James. In the episode, the events of the previous story, Duck's arrival at Edward Station, helping Edward, and the ensuing chase all happen on the same day. The chase is caused by some trucks Duck had just pushed up the hill breaking away from Edward and rolling down the hill after Duck. In the book, the train consists of 20 trucks. In the episode, there are only 5 trucks and a brake van.
Hurrah! 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 We've broken away! We've broken away! We've broken away! Chase him! Bump him! Throw him off the rails!
The illustration of Duck and the trucks rushing through Edward Station shows Edward himself being there. In the episode, it would not have been possible for Edward to be at his station, for it was his train that the trucks broke away from at the top of Gordon's Hill. In the book, once the trucks catch up to Duck, the fireman climbs over to the brake van and applies the brake gently. This is not seen or said to occur in the episode.
Oh, glory! Look at that!
The unnamed passenger train that Duck narrowly avoids crashing into is shown to be James in the episode. Also, Thomas is shown to be the engine who pulls Duck back onto the rails. Once Duck crashes, everyone in the barber shop is naturally stunned, but in the book, the barber himself is totally unfazed by the engine's arrival, and briefly continues to shave his customer.
Beg pardon, sir.
Gasped Duck.
Excuse my intrusion. No, I won't,
said the barber.
After the Fat Controller makes a pun and drops the title, the barber washes the soapy foam off Duck's face. In the episode, he simply just chucks a bucket of water at the engine, which fails to remove the foam at all. Duck is then informed by the Fat Controller that City of Truro shall be told of his narrow escape. Obviously, these lines were not included in the episode, as the famous engine had not been introduced yet. Diesel has apparently been banished from Sodor because he told lies about Henry too, but in the episode his removal is only because Sir Topham Hatt knew the oily engine was lying about Duck. The Great Western's welcome home party involves Henry, Gordon, Thomas, Percy and James in the episode, but in the book Kenny drew in Thomas, Henry, Gordon, the Fat Controller and Toby.
I do not like engines popping through my walls. They disturb my customers. I appreciate your feelings, and will gladly repair the damage. But you must know that this engine and its crew have prevented a serious accident. You and many others might have been badly hurt. It was a very close shave. Oh.